Yes, I was on last season. The show Comic Book Man on AMC were really cool enough to ask me to be a part and ask me to come on. And it was based on something I normally do anyway, which is go down to Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash at Kevin's comic book store to buy, posters and different type of DVDs and stuff that I normally would sell here at these type of cons. So we developed a storyline that I'm coming in, and that's what happens. They actually had called out on Ming, and Ming was the only one to man the store. It was hilarious. So I had a blast with those guys. It's a long shoot day, but you don't realize it. And the people who are coming in with merch to try to sell to them is actually real customers. They make appointments ahead of time, and producers pick the really most interesting ones to come in and make deals with. But that really does happen. And then this past season, which always films during the summer months, we just filmed an episode with myself and Jason Mewes and a few other characters, a few other people, shall I say, for this season. I think the new season has started already. I think they're into episode 2 or 3 right now. I should be on episode like 4 or 5 in this coming season.
Very cool. Are you gonna do anything on Tusk? Maybe
No.
cameo?
No. I mean, Tusk is. I know a little bit about the storyline, and Tusk is a very limited cast. Right now, it's Michael Parks and Justin Long, and those are pretty much the 2 main characters from what I remember Kevin telling me. I look forward to seeing how that turns out. It's kind of like a suspense thriller type of thing, and he's shooting it as, I think, starting next week, literally, and he's going to shoot a very short, quick schedule. I think it's like 25, 28 days, and then edit it, hopefully have it for submission for Sundance in January. And then I think his long-term plan is to then by March, if everything logistically about distribution and whatever happens with Clerks 3, to start shooting by March, and then hopefully have a October release date, which would then be romantically 20 years to the day that we released the very first film. So I think that's his golden plan.
Did you manage to get Tarantino?
Yeah, I know. And no, Tarantino I believe turned him down. Actually, didn't he? Yeah.
Well, I want to know about Comic Book Man. And you're 20 years to the day. How does that make you feel, like, personally?
Besides the oh, I feel old, the typical 40-something-year-old feeling of that. But at the same time, I truly feel blessed that the fan base is still as vibrant as kind of it was 5 years after the first film, and this building of this type of cult following of rabid fan base, and now seeing people who are my generation who now have kids who are somewhat getting into the teenage years or even into the early 20s who are opening their kids up to these films now and who love them and who are just enjoying them just as much. That it's a testament to Kevin's writing that it still can carry. It has that staying power and carry over from generation to generation. I'm truly blessed, and it's amazing. I think to myself, God, time has flown, but at the same time, I'm truly blessed to be part of so many great pieces of work, and to have been able to work with so many and still continue to work with such great people.
I know you still do a lot of stage acting. Do you have any projects coming up with that in the future?
Nothing long term. As of right now, I'm doing a one-day only. There's a play that plays in New York called You Got Hate Mail, and it's 4 main characters, and they're all corresponding through emails, and it's a couple that has an issue, and so they rotate celebrity guests all the time through that. And so I'll be doing that. I believe it's November 29th. I think it's literally the day after Thanksgiving in Manhattan, so you can go to my Facebook page or Twitter account and find out about that. And I have another reading, a stage reading of the beloved children's Christmas story, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the musical version from the claymation. So a friend of mine who's directing has cast me as the Burl Ives part, and so I'll be doing that, and I think I'm playing Mr. Claus as well, and so we'll be doing that sometime in December, like December 7th or 8th or something like that. And long-term wise, there's nothing that my friends and producer friends have put together that we're going to be a part of as of yet.
Okay.
Would you like to do more stage acting?
Oh yeah, that is my first love, and my circle of writer, director, producer friends in the New York, New Jersey area, whenever they have something that fits for me, we totally work it out and stuff like that. I just did a stage reading, a night of stage readings for some of my a producer friend, and it's just hilarious when you do multiple different stuff, shows and roles in one night. So it's good.
You're obviously a big hockey fan.
Yep.
Are you gonna do anything and hit somebody?
It's so funny. I was here in Detroit promoting, obviously, the FanFare, and so one of the appointments they made was for the Mitch Albom show, which is the author who has his radio show here, and Kevin is good friends with him because they're working together on that It's Somebody TV series, and so I even asked Mitch. I was like, "So what is going on with that?" Because I don't really know, and he's like, "Oh well, we pushed it back. Now that it was going to be a film, and now it's going to be this, and so now it's going to be apparently." He told me it's going to be an 8-part miniseries in cooperation with the BBC, and I was like, what does the BBC got to do with hockey? But okay. But then it's going to be shot here in Detroit as well as I think some locations in Canada. So I told him, I said, look, I'm a gigantic hockey fan, so even if I'm just a heckler in the audience, I want to be a part of this series of some sort. So we'll see. You know, I thought I made some ground with Mitch, so we'll see what happens. If I get on Mitch's side and Kevin's side, I'm like, come on. He might just hate me because I'm a Range fan and, you know, Kevin's a Devil fan and we're arch enemies team-wise, so that may come against me on this one. Yes.
I guess what's it like you're going to be taking on the role that made you famous again? You know, it wasn't really set up for a sequel to begin with. Now you're on your second sequel.
The way that he has this new one written, it's a natural progression of who we are as people, I think, are going. So in a way, Kevin has really developed this tremendous growth with these characters that I think tackling the character of Dante again should be not an issue. Yes, now that there's a child on board for this latest one, so now that there's a child on board, yes, there's going to be a different dynamic. There's Rosario Dawson in it as well, and they own the store, so there's a lot of, you know, there's going to be a lot of great challenges that I look forward to working on. So it doesn't frighten me or it doesn't tick me off. I think it's awesome. I can't wait for the challenge.
Did you ever think you'd be playing the role again into your 40s?
I wasn't opposed to it. I didn't know, and that's the type of thing with Kevin. You never know what's going to hit him. I mean, he once said he was going to retire, you know, after a certain film. And so, if it works and the fans enjoy it, and I'm honest to the role, I mean, that's, as an actor, you just want to be honest to the role and give what you can to what the role demands. So, I look forward to it, and did I predict it? No. You know, the one time I tried to anticipate, oh, this is going to be great, is when we were canceled with the animated series. That was the whole thing, like that one thing, that was one project. I was like pinning so many things on, like, oh, this will be great, we'll do this, we'll be like the new Simpsons, and blah, blah, blah. And then it just was, I think it was way ahead of its time at that time.
I loved it.
To be quite honest with you. So.
If you had like one stage performance that you could pick anyone you wanted, what one would you want to do?
Wow, that's a good question. What stage performance would I want to do, anyone? You know what? I guess I can always hope for King Lear because he's such an old character, and King Lear is such a great, you know, theatrical hero and just tormented and stuff like that. I've done a good bit of roles, and I can't. That's a good question. I'm putting on the spot. But and I always joke like I can do King Lear in my bedroom. That doesn't mean we're going to sell the place out. You know.
Does that also include like have you ever thought of being in Broadway?
Oh, you know, absolutely. I love Broadway. I've done musicals before. That's how I started out, was musical theater. So doing Broadway and musical theater right now, Quinto is on Broadway doing the Glass Menagerie right now, and it's like, what, isn't that Spock? No, don't worry about it. I mean, it's funny how Broadway is now bringing in more television and more film actors to bring in a draw, but these actors want to do it, they love it. That's as if you're a true actor, you want to do live stage, you have that skill set to do it. To have an audience on the edge of your seat and every word is an amazing power, I feel, and thrill. And plus, if you get it wrong, especially in a comedy, if you do something and it's not right, you can change it the next time. You know, you can tweak it, you can absolutely move the conversation along. So, you know, move the show along to where it's something that's perfect for the audience.
I guess that's what I always love about live performances, because you never see the same act.
No, you never do. And then after a long run, if you do a typical contract on Broadway, which is usually 8 months on a successful show, eventually you have fun with your castmates and they'll goof with you. Next thing you know, it's not water that's supposed to be vodka, it's real vodka. You're like, Anyway, what was I saying? You know, that type of thing. But you also you have to trust your castmates, you know.
So, on Western Clerks, you're one of the few people that has an acting background. What made you want to do the movie in the first place? I know you were doing stage.
I wanted to work. They were holding auditions out of the theater I was doing stage work at, and as part of the deal of Kevin asking the owner, "Can I use your theater?" You know, one of the things Kevin asked the owner of the theater was, "Can you call your stable of actors to come to audition?" So I'd never done a feature film before, so I was like, okay. And I was already doing a different show in another theater at the time of audition, so I actually missed the first night of auditions. And I had the owner call me the second day in the morning of, like, "I thought you were going to come down to audition." I was like, "Oh my God, was that last night?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, it's another one tonight, right?" Yeah, and so then I got down there for the second day. And if you've ever seen the 10-year anniversary audition of the Clerks, there's the auditions on the extras. And I was doing a show with Marilyn Gigliotti, who played Veronica, at another theater called Wait Until Dark, and I was the villain, so to speak, in that role. And I did this very evil, very, moving around type of the end of the play. And I slapped it together as a monologue, and he loved that type of intensity so much, and that I could remember all that dialogue and have that sinister about me, that if I could do that, I could play a sappy clerk, a whiny sappy clerk with no problem. And thank God he was right. So.
Did you help Jeff Anderson? Because I saw the audition tapes, and I'm sure he's seen.
Well,
so
Jeff wasn't there to audition. Jeff was there to goof on someone else who was auditioning. I think Ernie was the one he was there to goof on, who became Rick Darris. And so seeing him, it was just through Kevin's coaxing, I think, from up there. And as you see, he's auditioning the J role, no less. So, which is such an out-of-character thing to try to portray anyway. So, it was an odd type of feel walking in there. And Vincent Ferrer was videotaping it, and we had a questionnaire to fill out, which was very interesting, about what's your last film you saw, who do you like as a filmmaker, stuff like that, which I thought I'd never seen before, which I thought was completely fascinating. That was an awesome questionnaire to an audition. Yeah.
What, out of all of your stage work, what role are you most proud of? You're like, "Kids, come, sit down, watch."
Yeah, I've done Renfield the Lunatic in 3 productions of Dracula 3 times, which is it's a great role to get lost into. I'm very proud of that one. Another one is a play called The Dresser. It's also a movie called The Dresser, where I played Norman, the dresser to an aging Shakespearean actor in England during the bombing of World War II. And it's while this actor who's slowly losing his mind and can't remember lines, and I'm the dresser trying to get him to get on stage. That's a very difficult thing. So it was a role that I'm extremely proud of doing, and I would do again if I could.
Very cool.
What's the difference working on a Kevin Smith set than anybody else you've worked with?
Just the relaxed, unspoken acknowledgement that we all know what we want out of this. You know what I mean? Kevin knows what I can do, and I know what Kevin wants.
Okay.
Jeff, is really hilarious, and he knows how we can tweak things. And when we sit and we try to mull sometimes, the last Clerks was more freedom than any other film that me and Jeff have had with Kevin. And we were allowed to play with quite a few things in the delivery or whatever. And Jeff was really instrumental in especially towards the end scene in the jail. And it was just so nice that we've gotten to this point where we totally know each other, and it's a fun time. Jay, ever since Jay's been sober now, like many years now, like 6, 7 years, whatever it is, he's been just so awesome and even more fun to be around, and he's actually smarter and more hilarious now that he's been clean and sober. And he's that guy that keeps the set really light, even when something goes wrong and maybe there's some sort of weird technical glitch that's holding up time, and you see the producers kind of seeing the clock burning away, but we're getting things done. Things get done, and we still do have a fun time. And we all know where we all started. I knew where you were when you first met. You know what I mean? We all know that we all started that point. So there's never been any type of kind of like, oh, I can't be around so and so.
I know I've done some voiceover work for Pokemon.
Oh, a friend of mine is a voiceover director in New York, and he asked me to come in and throw down a couple of tracks for Pokemon. And he then wants to have me come into the Japanese division of Pokemon to do some audition for them, but throw some tracks down for them. And they kind of liked what I had to do, and they brought me on board. And I don't do a regular character, I do a lot of one-shot characters that are on the program. And I believe I've done like 2 or 3 episodes. I did one voice on one of the films, and then like 2 or 3 of the television episodes.
Any more voice work? voiceover work that you might want to do?
Oh yeah, voiceover work. I just held a panel on voiceovers just at 3 o'clock. It just ended at 4 o'clock with all the greats that are here. And voiceover work is one of the greatest types of work you can do. It's so much fun. It's so relaxing. And if you got the right director and the right producer in the studio with you, you can have a blast and really get amazing work done. So.
Got everything I had.
All right, sir. Sorry, we're in a room where there's a whole bunch of functions going on.
Has there ever been, like, as an actor, I've always run into people with major egos. Like, you don't have to name any names, but any major egos you've run into that made you not really want to work with anybody?
Not to where I don't want to work with anybody. Have I worked with people who've had egos on different projects? Yes, I have. You know, but what happens is it's a benefit to me because now the crew and staff and other co-stars like, what's up with so-and-so? Isn't they such and such? And then we look like gods because we're just so easygoing, low-key, regular people. And they're like, you're so cool, blah, blah, blah. And I go, don't thank me, thank my parents, man. That's how I raised me. I'm not that type of person to make waves and be a dick just to try to throw some sort of pseudo-celebrity power around. I'm just a regular guy who just got lucky into this fact that I'm able to be paid to do something I love, and I need everybody around me to go get that job done. If something goes wrong, I'll address it with you. We'll do it, try to solve the problem together. If not, you know, then we move on from that. But to try to throw tantrums, or if someone screwed up, it's like, get me his head, or whatever, or like, I'm not going on if I don't got my latte. It's not worth it. It's not beneficial to the project. It doesn't help your reputation, and people will eventually, who are in power, will stop wanting to work with you.
So no
Unless you have something
personality.
that no one else has, that they must work with you, and you can try to pull that power. Cool. Anything else?
Could you talk a little bit about Flea?
Flea was a film that I did out in Northern California by a filmmaker by the name of Bowser. Oh my God, I forgot the name. It's so bad. It's a film that has about a young man who lives in this coastal town in Northern California, runs away from home, heads up to the mountains where he encounters these wood people, meaning people who just live in the woods, who are disconnected with society and have their own society, and finds out that they have some sort of mysterious supernatural magic. And they show that the kid has a very strong magic to him. But what happens is the mother in town, who's completely out of her mind, puts up a reward of $10,000 to find him. I play a go-between. I'm a character by the name of Scavenger. Like a junk man type of scavenger type of guy who makes money by just recycling and stuff. And I have a relationship with the people up in the woods because I get them supplies and then they give me stuff, and I also come down to town and trade, and I find out about this, and I know that the kid is up there, but one of the local town crime syndicate biker gang guys knows I must know what's going on and tries to frame, try to get the kid and stuff like that. But it's a supernatural thing. There's a lot of super kind of powers involved, and I don't know whatever happened to that film. It had like a release out in the West Coast, but I don't know what has happened since. I'm trying to get in touch with them to try to get a copy of it. I think that should be. Do we have? How much time do we have? Sure. Of shooting a film called Tusk right now in North Carolina with Michael Parks and Justin Long. Once he wraps that up and gets it to Sundance, he wants to release that in Sundance, and he wraps that up. Hopefully, if all the logistics of who's distributing it and stuff like that gets worked out, we can hopefully start shooting Clerks 3 by March. Kevin has time to edit it during the summer, and knowing him, he'd probably want to release it in October, which then technically will be 20 years to the day that we released the very first film. So I think romantically it sounds nice if we can get that done that way.
Cool. What was it like working on Holger?
Holger was a lot of work. If you watch Comic Book Man, he has the big beard now, and he's quite a sizable guy. And back when I worked with him there, and it was really interesting. Vulgar is based on the animation that you see in the very first Clerks, of that clown coming in the fishnets and stockings. And a conversation between Brian Johnson and Kevin one day, we're wondering, like, what do you think this guy's story would be? And Kevin said, well, why don't you write a script about it? And this is the script that Brian Johnson developed, and it was very dark and very kind of twisted. And like, so the first draft of that script, when I read it, I was like, well, what the heck is this? Because when he wrote it and handed it to me, he said, I thought of you when writing it. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then when I read it, I was like, what is wrong with you? What do you mean you were thinking of me when you wrote it? So it was a lot of work, but as an actor, I found it was a great challenge. if no one's familiar with that movie, there's the assault scene that happens in that film that's very disturbing. And I did some research on it and victims of that type of assault, and I'm very proud of that film. And I wish Brian would write more, to be quite honest with you, and direct more. I thought he was a fantastic guy to work with. And everybody, of course, we all knew each other. You have Jay Muse in it, you have Kevin in it, you have Walt in it, you have, Dave Klein, who was our DP, played, a part in it. It was just fun just working with all those same people again.
It was just odd seeing you, like, from Dante Higgs to that character.
Oh, it's a completely different character.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's called acting. It's what you know what I mean. That's what I love about it.
I know, like you transformed it perfectly. It was
Thank
awesome.
you. I appreciate that. I love that movie in the sense that I'm very proud of the work that I put behind that, and I'm glad people who like it and respect it. It's disturbing, yes. It's a 20-minute comedy for the first 20 minutes, and then it takes this left turn. And what the hell am I watching? So I'm glad that we were able to do that, and like I said, I just wish Brian would write and direct more.
I know you do a lot of the convention circuit and stuff like that, and what is it with? I know you like you love to give back to the small conventions, the people that are just up and coming.
Mm-hmm.
Is it something in your past where you just love like helping out the underdog and stuff like that, or?
No, I am an underdog. I'm forever an underdog. I'm continuing to be an underdog. I come from a very blue-collar background to this very day, and I know that struggle of trying to get something done and getting people to follow you and believe in what you do, and that's the exact same thing that we had even with putting out Clerks. I mean, it was Kevin's belief and Scott and Dave's belief to get that out there, to submit it to film festivals. So, plus that's my parents. That's just being raised, just like, don't be a douche. You know what I mean? It's kind of, not in those words, and my mother would ever say that to me, but, it's just like, don't be that way. And if it's a simple sentiment, treat others like you like to treat yourself. You know how you like to be treated. That's all. And then trust me, people would want to work with you. They're going to want to hang out with you. They're going to want to go that extra mile with you. When I talk at film schools and different classes, and they say, what's the most important thing about filmmaking? And I say, catering. What do you mean? I'm like, if you feed the crew with good food, not just pizza all the time, not just fat stuff, not just sandwiches, and you give them a good meal to get to, they will work that extra couple hours when you're in a location for only one day and you still need to get some shots. And be nice to them. Don't blow your top. Don't humiliate some people in front of someone else. Pull them aside. Go, why is this wrong? What can we do to solve it? Let's move on to it together. If not, we'll find help for you. If you can't, then we need to solve it. We may have a difference of opinion, but let's work this through. It's something I think Congress needs to learn this lesson, that they can't get their shit together. So, that's just that type of thing. I was brought up that way. I will always be that way. May I forever be that way, because I can never see myself being a douche and then being able to sleep at night going like, man, why was I like that? You know what I mean? So,
Well, thank you for.
thank you guys so much for asking questions, and I really enjoy these cons, and I'll always be able to help anyone who's trying to find out things.
Have you ever turned down a script? I was actually curious, 'cause I know you're looking.
Yeah, there are scripts that, I give them honest opinions why. It's not like I go, you know what I mean? There are some roles, there are some scripts that I'd be like, you're gonna burn through a lot of money and not get what you really want. This character development is very thin, or if I have a very strong character and have no one else to play against, it's like, what you just did for this main character now work this way. I work a lot with a lot of theater, live theater groups and other groups workshopping scripts. I have a closet where almost the entire thing is filled with just scripts that have been workshopped. Just because you're better off trying to get your best foot forward and just get it out there. There are a lot of kids now filmmakers now that just want to get it out there and work about, try to tweak it later, but you only got one chance when your name's out there to be like, oh, you're that guy. You know what I mean? You may have a great piece of work that you just have sitting aside, but if you put out that rushed, schlocky stuff out, you're not doing yourself any justice by doing that. So take the time, do it right. Listen to other people's opinions of your work, and then give it to people who you don't even know to read your work and say, what do you think? And honestly, take that criticism honestly, because they'll only make it better, because eventually isn't that who you're making it for, an audience to watch? Yes, it's your film, it's your vision, it's your point of view. But at the same time, you want other people to see it. Otherwise, it's just you talking to yourself in the shower. You know what I mean? Everybody's opinion needs to be heard. It's not an opinion until someone else hears it. Otherwise, you're just mumbling to yourself.